Welcome everybody. This is Judy and I'm here with Jen, and today we're going to make these very simple rustic looking flowers out of burlap, a pipe cleaner, and a button. So we're going to start with a piece of burlap that's 5 inches by 10 inches, and as you can see here I have 3 different kinds of burlap. You can get different colors. Here's a couple different colors. You can also get different weaves of burlap, and this is a little more closely woven together. So we're going to try this very loosely woven one first. And we're going to use a jar, a canning jar or any other size jar, a pickle jar, whatever. We need some buttons for the center of our flowers. And we're using this burlap and a piece of lace to decorate the outside of our jar. And this burlap we bought in a little roll, which is very convenient. Then the edges don't fray.
Yeah, the rolls are really nice because they don't fray. And if you tuned in for some of our other burlap things that we did over the summer and in August, you know that it does matter how you cut burlap. And the size of the woven part does not change that. You still need to cut it a certain way, otherwise it'll fray all apart.
So when you get your burlap, it might be a little wonky like this piece of green here is. So what you're going to do is take your fingers on each corner and stretch it. And that will straighten out so your threads are going straight then on your burlap. Same with your bigger piece. Most likely when you get burlap, because it's so loosely woven, it's going to be out of shape. But it's very easy to just stretch it and get it right back into shape so those threads line up. And when you cut burlap, and mine is 5 inches by 10 inches, if you want a smaller flower or a bigger flower, you can cut a different size. But you want to pick one of the threads and cut right along that thread when you're cutting burlap. Don't just measure and cut. You need to go right along that thread. Okay, so we've got our 5 inch by 10 inch piece of burlap. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull out the lengthwise threads. And I've already started on this one. So you're going to start about a 1/2 inch from the edge. And the one trick to this is you want to take your other hand and you want to pinch that crosswise thread so that it doesn't pull out also. Just don't start jerking the threads out or you're going to have a whole big mess. We don't want those crosswise threads to pull out. So I'm going to pinch the crosswise thread. I'm going to grab one of the lengthwise threads, pull that out, and throw it away. Now you may lose one of those crosswise threads or a couple, but don't worry about that. So I'm just going to keep pulling until I get about a 1/2 inch from the other side. I've lost one of those, but no big deal. But if you don't try and pinch that and not let it go, you're going to lose a lot more. And if you do, it's just going to make your flower a little smaller. It's no big deal. And we're going to need a glue gun, so before you start this, you want to get your glue gun plugged in and make sure that's hot.
And if you're a person that burns your fingers a lot on a hot glue gun, you might want a little cool water nearby to stick your fingers in. Happens to us all.
Okay, so it looks like my glue gun's hot. So what I'm going to do is, I guess I didn't give Jen one if she wants to try it. I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to glue together these edges where I did not pull the threads apart. And like I say, you're going to lose some threads here or there. Don't worry about it. So I'm going to start here, just putting some glue down. And you want to be careful because that glue is going to squirt between these fibers because they're so loosely woven. So be very careful with your fingers there. And also it's going to want to stick to your cardboard. And as usual, you're going to have some glue strings flying around here and there. And you can kind of start to see how our petals are going to form now that I have this folded over and all those threads pulled out. This would be really pretty for a centerpiece for one of those barn weddings. And you can get different colors of burlap. Brown, off-white, I think there's orange, obviously there's green.
And this time of year, Joann Fabric often has it on sale because it's fall.
It's about $3.99 a yard, not on sale, but of course we use a coupon and get it on sale. Okay, so now we've got to this point.
My edge came apart. No.
Don't worry about it because if your edge came loose, you're going to be gluing it anyway.
Okay, because my edge kind of got messed up here.
The hot glue will hold it together once you start gluing the other edge on top of it.
Okay.
So now I've got this, and I'm going to glue. We're going to use these chenille stems, and we happen to have a bunch of green ones. So if you could use brown or whatever color you want to use. And I'm going to glue it to the end of my burlap here.
Can you use tacky glue for this? Would it work?
You'd have to hold it until it got dry, so I wouldn't recommend it. For the folding over part would be okay, but this rolling part, you'd really have to hold on to it if you use tacky glue until the glue starts to set. Okay, I've got it glued to the end here. I'm going to give it a second to catch on. And then I'm going to start rolling it around the pipe cleaner and gluing as I go. And as you can see, got to keep your fingers out of the way. I'm gluing it or rolling it pretty tightly. And if you'd want to make a smaller flower, like I said, you'd start with a smaller rectangle. And once you make one, you'll get an idea of what you want to do. We're going to make, in your kit, you actually are going to get enough to make 3 flowers. And that pretty much fills up your jar.
They're neat though, because when they get all rolled, it doesn't look like burlap. It looks like string. Like you sat and curved a lot of string.
Okay, so I've got my, okay, that doesn't look like a flower yet. So what you're going to do is just give it a second for the glue to set, and then you're going to start spreading it out from the center. Just take your fingers, spread it out from the center. And like magic, your flower has bloomed. And now we have a flower. So the next part would be to glue our button on. I'm actually going to put the glue on the button.
And if you're making it at home, be creative with your buttons. Any color would work.
There we go. Now, in the one of my samples here, I actually put floral tape around the bottom of my burlap and down the stem. I found that was a little hard to do. And since we're using green anyway, I just thought I'm just going to leave it without the floral tape. If you want to like that look of the floral tape, go ahead and try that. It was a little hard to work with, I thought. Now, if you've got one of the taller canning jars, you're fine with this size stem. But if you've got one of the smaller canning jars, or a jar like I have here is actually from Dollar Tree, you can bend your stem up and then wind it around itself. Don't worry about cutting it. That gives it a little extra strength also. And you can see this flower here was made from this piece of burlap. It's a little more closely woven together. So you got a different effect from that one. Okay, now we're ready to do our jar. We're going to do, like I said, you'll get 3 flowers in your kit. In your jar, you will get a jar. And you'll get a piece of the burlap ribbon and a piece of lace. So first I'm going to glue the lace onto the burlap ribbon. I just think that's going to be a little easier. First I measured around my jar and I allowed a little bit of overlap. Like that. So I think I will put the glue on my ribbon. I'm going to kind of center it on the burlap. And I'm going to go, now that I know where I want to go, I'm going to put it on the burlap. And you could really use any kind of ribbon on here. Like I say, be really cute centerpiece at a wedding.
Or if you looked ahead in our program guide and see we're making some little red wagons coming up, they would look cute with the pumpkin in the little red wagon.
So I'm almost done with mine. Now I'm not going to glue my burlap all the way around the jar. I'm just going to glue the ends to the jar. Trim it off. Get my ribbon straightened up here. So I'm going to put the glue on the ribbon. I'm going to start right about there. I'm going to wrap it around the jar and glue the other end down. I'm not putting glue all the way around the jar. There's really no need for that. How's it going, Jen?
Okay.
You got one done?
It went done. My ends were
You're
not
going to
as
spread your flour out a little bit more.
My
I'm going to show you.
ends-
Here's Jen's. I'm going to spread it out a little more for her.
my ends were not as nice as Judy's when I bent it over, but it did take.
Okay, here's our jar. Very cute. Take our burlap flowers here. And there we go. Simple as pie. Got yours, Jen?
Mine. Turned out.
All right. See you next time.
See you next time, guys.